Namaste and welcome to the Festival of Bharat. My name is Divyanshi Sharda, your host. Our special guest for today's show is Sri Raj Vedamji. Dr. Raj Vedam works at the confluence of applied mathematics, engineering, algorithms, and computer science. Using the tools of archaeogenetics, archaeoastronomy, and archaeology, and the evidence of knowledge transfers from ancient India, the speaker has put forward a strong thesis with verifiable facts on the antiquity of Indian civilization and the many discoveries made by the ancients. Dr. Raj Vedam is a co-founder of the think tank Indian History Awareness and Research, and he's also the visiting faculty at the Hindu University of America. Dr. Vedamji, namaste and welcome to our show.
Namaste. Thank you for inviting me. It's a real pleasure to be on the show.
The pleasure is all ours. So we're truly honored to have you here with us.
Thank you.
So, sir, in your talks, you have extensively spoken about the five inimical frameworks that control the narratives of Indian history. So, could you please tell us about what they are?
Yes. Thank you for that excellent question, Divyanshi. So this relates to the historiography of the Indian civilization. When we talk about who are the people who wrote the history of India, for the longest time, we see that Indians have been happy with the notion of history that we have, which means, for example, the Puranas, the Itihasas, Sthala Puranas, or genealogies that are maintained by various groups of people across the country. Or we go to a temple and we read the epigraphy that says this temple was done by this king in this time, and so on and so forth. Or the folklore and stories we have. This has been our notion of history at the family level, at the unit level, civilization level for the longest time. So the question comes when we read the history of India today in our NCERT books and so on, who are the people who wrote this? This is the historiography. And in my work, I found that there are five frameworks that have been applied on the narration of Indian history, in which it's an entirely outsider lens. It's not an insider lens. That is why I tend to call them inimical frameworks. These are not frameworks that are looking at the Indian civilization in what it really is, but trying to amplify certain ideologies that they have. So these frameworks are things, for example, when the colonial people came to India. So they came, the Portuguese, the French, the Dutch, the British, all these people came to India, and once the East India Company started its activities, they wanted to know what is the history of these people that we are trying to trade or rule and these kinds of things. So they started a certain kind of narration of Indian history driven by their requirements and needs, which was, we need to rule India. In order to rule India, there is a necessity to make the Indians feel small about their civilization and look up to the British civilization as a big, huge, powerful country with lots of things to teach the Indians. So it came with a lens that looked at Indians as primitive, backward, superstitious, and these kinds of things. They were soon followed by the Eurocentric framework. And why did the Eurocentric framework come? Because the colonialists, for example, people like William Jones and others who were also linguists, they observed that, hey, it looks like Sanskrit, Latin, and Greek are related. And how is that possible? So that triggered off one more line of thinking to try and show why are these languages related. And it brought about the field of linguistics to try and address some of these concerns. So when the Eurocentric people came on the scene, they were concerned with what is the relationship between us, white Europeans, and these Indians? Why do we speak the same language? And therein was born the Eurocentric lens, because it led to some concepts in linguistics. It led to some postulations and assumptions and constructions of some models. And these models were strongly Eurocentric because of the kind of pressures on them, things like German Aryanism, things like various other things that are acting upon some of these things. They were soon followed by the missionaries. The missionaries were never far behind colonialism. So wherever colonialism was there was also missionary activity happening. So they came with a certain lens. They wanted to convert the Indians to Christianity. So they put their own ideologies on the narrations of Indian history. After our independence, we have unfortunately experienced Nehruvian socialism, the Fabian socialism, that has brought about its own lenses. So the kind of failed theories like certain kinds of anthropological studies like cranial metrics and other kinds of things that are applied to early studies like in 1900s, Risley and others, that has led to present day sociological models. It's an evolution from there to sociological models where the outsider lens is applied to all of Indian dynamics. Every one of Indian dynamics is seen in the lens of subaltern studies or post-colonial or feminism and these kinds of divisive models that tend to look at conflict, the conflict model, oppressor-oppressed. So they bring in that kind of a lens. And since 1972, at least, India has unfortunately experienced the communist model in addition, that framework. So the Marxists control the education framework today in India, and they have brought their bigoted lens to the narration of Indian history, where everything is seen in the conflict model. So these five frameworks, Divyanshi, the colonial model, the Eurocentric model, the missionary model, the leftist socialist model, and the Marxist model. These five frameworks have brought their ideologies and they subverted the narration of Indian history to their own ideologies. This is what we are seeing today. There's a subversion of identity, there's a subversion of history, all to suit the narrations of these five frameworks. That unfortunately is continuing to the present day. So this is what I meant when I say these are the five inimical frameworks that control the narration of Indian history today. Whether you're seeing it in NCERT textbooks, whether you're experiencing it in popular media, in movies and television channels and narrations, these are the five frameworks. If you study what they're saying deeply, you can docket them into one of these frameworks and say these people belong to this persuasion. This is the ideology that is being pushed, and this is what we see.
Namaste. We hope you enjoyed this Chitti Media content. Please remember to subscribe to us and switch on the notifications for this channel. For our other social media links, more content, and to support our work, please visit citti.net. Dhanyavad. Namaskar.